What is going on, YouTubeverse? John Stanek from Johnny Radio here, bringing you another Viva La Vinyl classic album review. And guys, it doesn't get much more classic than this. The 1972 masterpiece, The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars by David Bowie. Just one of the most influential records of all time. Glam rock. Concept album, space rock, and of course Bowie had already written some songs to do with outer space like Space Oddity, The Man Who Sold the World, Life on Mars, but it wasn't until this that he went just 100% sci-fi, creating this character, Ziggy Stardust, who the name Ziggy is based on Iggy Pop, who he was a big fan of at the time and would later go on to work with in the 70s. But, you know, he really takes from the style of some of his contemporaries like the Velvet Underground, Lou Reed himself, Iggy Pop, T-Rex, who the song Lady Stardust is actually based upon as well. But man, he really makes it his own. And by creating this character, he was able to hide behind Ziggy and go on tour all glammed up. And man, like, can you imagine being alive to see this tour? If you have and you experience it, please let me know what it was like in the comments below, but because I can only imagine, because musically, just Bowie was at the top of his game here, story aside, just from the opening track of 5 Years. There's nothing quite like it. I think it's one of the greatest opening tracks in all of rock and roll history. The way that it builds slowly, and it's telling the story about how the Earth only has 5 years left. There's this big catastrophe coming, and these people are on the streets and just going about their everyday lives. But by the end of it, Bowie is just screaming at the top of his lungs, "We've got 5 years." It's just such an amazing song, and it just makes the hairs on your arms stand up. And again, I can only imagine what this would have been like live. And by the way, I just have to stop and say, the MVP musically of this album is Mick Ronson. On electric guitar, on piano, on the string orchestration, on all these songs. Like, man, the strings, especially on songs like 5 Years, give it this extra punch. And Mick Ronson, just a master on every instrument he plays on. David Bowie, no slouch as well. I really love, there's something about the way he plays acoustic guitar, like especially how he plays these kind of odd diminished chords that no one else sounds like Bowie on acoustic guitar. Plus, he plays alto sax on several songs, like the second song on here, Soul Love, which is another great one, a melody that really gets stuck in your head. It has kind of this more laid-back, jazzy vibe to it. But Bowie's vocals, and I'm not the biggest Bowie fan in general, and also I'm somewhat critical of his vocals at times, but throughout this whole album, his vocals are just at the top of his game. Moon Age Daydream, another great fun track where he starts out saying, "I'm an alligator, I'm a mama papa coming for you." Whatever that means, it doesn't matter, because it's just so fun. And another song where Ronson really gets to shine towards the end with just this blistering guitar solo that sounds like they're just taking off into outer space. Just amazingly produced. And by the way, David Bowie produced this record, or co-produced it with Ken Scott. But man, can you imagine just someone with that much the vision of this album? And he would go on to produce other people's great records like Iggy Pop, like Lou Reed, like some of the people I already mentioned that they were his heroes. He got to work with them on some of their amazing records themselves. That same year, as a matter of fact, he produced Transformer by Lou Reed. Just like Bowie, yes, he was on a lot of drugs at the time that probably allowed him to do so many things at once. And this album was made in such a short period of time. But my God, man, then you got Starman, absolutely one of the best songs on this album. I love that it wasn't even going to be on the record, and the people were telling him, from the record company, we don't hear a hit on this album. You need to write one. And then he just goes and writes Starman, like, no problem, okay. And yeah, it's like, it is a hit. it's so catchy, but it's also so uniquely Bowie. Like, it just has that weird right off the bat with him like doing this da 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 thing in the background, and it's like, okay, where's this going? And then, man, as soon as that chorus comes in and that la da 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 la 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 la, it's like, yes, man, I love it so much. Oh, It Ain't Easy, another great track. Like, there really isn't a weak song on this album. The only one I'm not that crazy about is Star, but I guess, you know, it's one of those songs that kind of drives the narrative of the story a little bit. But that would be the weakest one to me. Even so, I wouldn't cut it out. But It Ain't Easy, which is a cover song, actually, it doesn't go as much with the narrative, but I love it musically, especially the dynamics of that song. It goes from like a whisper to a scream on that It Ain't Easy. So bluesy and cool. I love that track. Yeah, side one is just so great. Side two really has some great songs as well. Lady Stardust is a superb ballad. And that kind of gives a little bit of an insight into the androgynous side of the character, where he has both male and female, maybe even bisexual, which, you know, there's a lot of mythos about Bowie, which is probably true. Hang On to Yourself, really fun, upbeat song. Of course, the title track, Ziggy Stardust. Man, that guitar riff is just iconic. I love it. I love how it kind of gives just a little short biopic on Ziggy, the character who, you know, just like he describes as, you know, this beautiful creature who came to save the world with rock and roll. But then, you know, sadly, you know, things go dark on the album and it ends in rock and roll suicide. But even that song has this like glimmer of hope at the end, where he's like on 5 Years, screaming his lungs out at the end saying, "Give me your hands, you're wonderful," you know, like, don't commit suicide, basically, is what I take from that. But I glossed over Suffragette City, another great rocker that has the classic line, "Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am." It's just so fun, man. It's like, it's got a little bit of everything, where this album, it keeps you engaged musically with the story, even though, you know, it's not that concise of a story. It's not like the Who's Tommy, but it doesn't have to be. And I think that's the kind of cool thing about Ziggy is it's that much greater of a concept album, because where I think Tommy, which I also love, by the way, I've done a review of that here on the channel. The things that I think are weak about Tommy is that it leans too much into the narrative, and there's like too many songs that just are trying to push the story along. This one, it just, you know, it has kind of like a more loose thing going on. And I think a lot of people took from that, you know, you could make concept albums that don't have to be, you know, just this storyline. Like, take the one right behind my head that came out a year after this. I would not be surprised if Pink Floyd took some notes from Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars. But yeah, just there's so many things to say about this record, but I could go on and on about it. I've listened to it just multiple times over the last week. I do want to mention, since my friend Mark and I recently did a whole Wes Anderson, our 4 favorite films, and we talked a bit about The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou. Of course, a lot of songs from this album right here were on that soundtrack, played by Sue George in Portuguese, which is really cool, and just again shows you how much influence globally Bowie had. You know, just and obviously on the movie world, you know, Bowie was just one of the greatest. And like I say, you know, he's not even one of my absolute favorites, but you gotta respect him, especially for albums like these, where he just goes 110% into the character. If I had to pick 2 favorites, man, that's hard, but I think I would have to go with 5 Years and Ziggy Stardust. If I had to give this a grade, a very strong 9 out of 10. It is an indisputed masterpiece. And yeah, so let me know in the comments below what you think. What are your 2 favorite songs from the album? And were you at the tour for this back in 72, 73? Would love to hear about it because, man, if I had a time machine, this would be one of those that I would go back to. But guys, thank you so much for watching. We got more album reviews, more countdowns, top 50s that you all can vote on, and so much more. Thank you for watching, and as always,